Oh, please, what is that? Don't tell me. It's all in the Reflexes.
You're listening to All in the Reflexes, an unrepentant vivisection of geek news and culture.
It's all in the Reflexes.
With the comedy rock geek Mikey Mason, the Brack of all trades Jeb Brack, Madison Metricula Roberts, and tech guy Steve.
It's all in the Reflexes.
I know, there's a problem with your face.
Hello and welcome to All in the Reflexes. It has been a while since we've been on the mics, but we're glad to be back. My name is Jeb.
I'm Madison Metricula Roberts.
And this is Tech Guy Steve.
Couple of announcements. This has been in the works for a long time, but my book with Jason Brick, Random Encounters Season 1 Omnibus, is available for purchase on Amazon.com. If you buy it, we would appreciate that a lot because I think you'll enjoy it, but we could also use a review to help us get more people get the news about it. It comes out, it's in print form, and I am really pleased with the way it turned out. We showed around a few copies at Fear the Con, so more on that later.
Yeah.
I
reviewed it. Though I did not use the phrase really wanted to. It was like mental tic tacs. Because they're brief. They're literally a page and a half, 2 pages. And so it was easy to read like 6 or 7 of them in a sitting, you know?
Exactly right. And we were just looking to seed people's imaginations. We weren't, trying to go for great big long things. It's just little ideas you inject into your game and make it your own. So yeah. Thanks for the review, and Madison reviewed it too, as well as many of my other readers, for which I am profoundly grateful.
Yeah, it was delightful. I mean, obviously, I didn't read the whole thing, but I read several of the little blips in each section, and I really like not just like the pithiness of it, but the layout. Like that, everything basically was in like a 2-page spread. It was very accessible. Yeah. It's an easy, I said this in my review too, it's an easy recommend, and it was like right up there with like Robin's Laws for like kind of meta arsenal stuff for me.
Wow. I've gone bright red. Thank you so much. Madison, how about you?
Well, I put out a new song yesterday, just in time for Pokemon Go summer season. It's, there's a lot of Pokemon songs called I Choose You, and this one is mine. And it's a Pokemon love song, and it's super cheesy, but it comes with a exclusive B-side that I was not planning to release or record, and that's all just $1 at Metricula.bandcamp.com. So if you like cheesy, terrible, low-hanging fruit Pokemon puns, I have you covered. I got ferret holes. I'm so Bulbasaur. I have a plan to execute. My heart goes ratata. I got all of it. I'm ready to go.
So we will take a Pikachu.
That's in there too.
Okay, so
yeah, I got it. It's a roundup. It's not my finest work, but it's some of the stuff that I'm the most excited and happy about producing.
Awesome. Well, on a personal level, I'm this week back from Fear the Con 11, still kind of recovering. It was, when you have that much fun and then it ends, you can't help but have a crash afterwards. But the funny story that we'll do a wrap up of Fear the Con later on, but I just wanted to say that I was having such a great time at Mikey's show that I wanted to promote his music to my D&D group. And so after I got back from the con, I went to post the video of Best Game Ever to the Slack channel for our D&D group. And I was utterly confused because there was already a post there from me of his video with comments that I did not remember putting up on early Friday morning. And I'm like, holy, this is exactly what I was going to say Oh, but I must have done it when I was completely drunk.
That's hilarious.
In that vein, remind me, maybe as an interlude to There's a Problem with Your Face, for me to retell the time I saw the last Twilight movie and repeated a speech about prophylactics to the movie theater employees on multiple days in a row because I didn't remember.
All right. Looks like Problem with Your Face is going to be a real humdinger this time.
Oh, my golly.
How's it been going with you, Madison? It's been a while since we spoke. What's going on?
I know, it's been a few weeks. So tomorrow I'm going to fly. I met a new friend at my book club, and she has her pilot's license, and she's like, oh, we should go fly in a tiny plane and go get a sandwich. And I'm like, because that's a thing that people who fly in tiny planes, I mean, you have to go somewhere. And it's like, so I'm about to get in a tiny plane with a woman I just met. And I asked, I was like, you're safe, right? And she's like, well, I haven't crashed yet. And I'm like, okay. So Richard, my spouse, says that it's like, so I tease him a lot about how, like, was it last summer he met a bunch of people by getting in their van to go play Pokemon when they had, like, Freezy Pops and water, and they were like, you should come with us and play Pokemon. And he's like, okay, and he gets in their van, and he's like, Madison, you just met this person, and you're gonna get into a tiny plane with them, so I need you to stop complaining about the Pokemon van. And I'm like, well, there's some balance. I could see that. I don't know. I've never been in a tiny plane, so if I die, I enjoyed working with all of you.
Well, can you be more specific about what the tiny plane is?
No, I have no idea. I just met this person, and I realized that my social anxiety about saying no to things is stronger than my fear of death.
Because my next door neighbor is a pilot and has taken me up in his tiny plane, which, if I'm not mistaken, is a 1954 Aeronca Champ, which still is covered with fabric.
Oh my God.
And it is so tiny that when the two of us are in it, he has to put in less fuel because it exceeds the weight limit. And so we can only go for very short rides.
All right, I'm gonna report back with a full roundup of
I would be interested to
situation.
I would be interested to hear what the plane is. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping
it's a little Cessna.
Yeah, that's assuming you survive. So
yeah. So Godspeed to myself.
Steve,
like you, I got back from Fear the Con 11 and was completely exhausted beyond reason.
Yes,
and I really mean that because I didn't stay up at night. I didn't drink any liquor. I really tried to do the whole stay hydrated the whole time. Mm-hmm. When I got back, I was totally out of it and slept for most of a day and a half.
Yep.
On the other hand, even though I was very dubious in previous podcast episodes, I did get off my butt eventually and run a game.
Good.
And it went pretty well. I mean, I definitely have things to work on to improve it, but the players seemed to like it, and it was a fun break on the second day. So
yeah, it was pretty great, and we're going to devote most of There's a Problem with Your Face to talking about some of the things that we did or learned or had happened to us at Fear the Con. So stay tuned for that. And after you hear it, I hope that you will come and join us at the next one because this was the biggest one ever, and it's supposed to get even bigger next year. So let us move along to the news.
And now for some more bad news. Ready?
All right, this is in memoriam. This is a sad day because on the day that we're recording this, Harlan Ellison was found dead at the age of 84, died in his sleep. I don't know about you guys, but Harlan Ellison was one of the formative authors of my youth. I mean, I read everything that he wrote, and he wrote all kinds of science fiction, TV criticism, screenplays. He won the Hugo, the Nebula, the Writers Guild, and Edgar Allan Poe Awards multiple times. He wrote one of the most famous episodes of Star Trek ever, The City on the Edge of Forever, and then his battles with Gene Roddenberry over rewriting it and getting credit for it, those were legendary. He was a vocal and even combative person. A curmudgeon or irascible was often how he was described. A total prick was another way that he was often described. But whatever he was like as a human being in person, you could not deny that he had some of the most cutting-edge ideas in science fiction, and he wrote with words that were like razors. I mean, his language and his turns of phrase, I mean, they're just embedded in my brain. They're part of my deep structures of my brain. So it is a tremendous loss to science fiction, and there's no way he will not be remembered.
Yeah, the one that always that haunts me is the I have no mouth and I must scream.
Yeah,
man, it's a super short story. I don't know if I could really put my finger on anything quite like it. It's post-apocalyptic, but not in a way I've ever seen before.
Yep. He wrote one of the first Mad Max-style stories called Along the Scenic Route. He wrote A Boy and His Dog, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right, yeah.
Just so many things, and he wrote for TV a lot, and his TV criticism column in the Detroit Free Press, if I'm not mistaken, was called The Glass Teat, where he wrote about not only television and what was on, but also about what was going on behind the scenes. He was one of the only people to document the censorship that was happening to the Smothers Brothers at the time. I read those books years later, long after all that stuff had fallen by the wayside, and it was still incisive commentary on television. Just, there was nobody like him, and anybody who hasn't read his stuff should try it. I mean, dip in anywhere. Deathbird Stories. He edited the anthologies Dangerous Visions and again Dangerous Visions.
We read Dangerous Visions. I run a book club, and a couple of years ago we did Dangerous Visions as like a throwback. Usually we do modern sci-fi, and I mean, obviously, like the anthology, the Dangerous Visions in it don't hold up well to modern audiences,
right?
But it was it's sort of an interesting time in history, right? To think about, sort of like, I mean, he had spheres of influence, sort of throughout his life, but it's like particularly in the like 60s, 70s, early 80s kind of time where he was like, I mean, like, I put this in the little show notes, but it's like I've heard people refer to him as the problematic titan of sci-fi.
Yes.
Because it's like, I mean, it's not, like, kind of like irascible is a good way to describe his challenging behavior in some ways, but I mean, you can't deny the effect that he's had on the industry.
Exactly.
Or his talent.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
or his talents. Yeah, like, I mean, like you said, like stuff that like cuts through. So.
So let's move on to other news. Steve, what have you got for us?
Well, a cool story in space exploration. The Japanese have set up a spacecraft that is arriving at a diamond-shaped asteroid, and the plan is to launch a projectile into the asteroid. And I think their plan is to try to punch a hole through it, that they're going to analyze the debris that comes out of the hole. So that they're trying to analyze the composition of the center of this asteroid. And that's pretty exciting. We've had other recent news in the previous couple of years. We've had a lander land on an asteroid and report back. We've had an impactor launched onto a satellite that send up a plume of dust and debris that we try to analyze. And this is along the same trajectory that we're getting more and more information about the composition of asteroids. I mean, in part, it's interesting because they think a lot of the, for example, there's some heavy metals and rare earth metals that are on Earth specifically because of asteroid impacts.
Oh, sure.
That the stuff that was in the Earth as the Earth formed all went down beneath the mantle. And so the stuff that's actually anywhere near the surface for us to mine was all laid down by hundreds of millions of years of asteroid impact.
Wow.
And there's also the water vapor trapped in the asteroids. And so a lot of people believe that the future of space exploration is based on mining asteroids and getting materials to build out of asteroids, so you don't have to carry it up out of the gravity well. You get the nickel and the iron and the materials and the water and everything you need from the asteroid belt.
Well,
it's pretty cool that they're doing this.
It is very cool, but I can't help but feeling that if they had done this sooner and known these things, maybe Bruce Willis wouldn't have had to die on that asteroid in Armageddon. That was one of the tragedies of our time.
So sad.
What is it? Is that
maybe
like,
later we'll do a minute of silence for the...
what was it? Was that what I Don't Want to Miss a Thing is from? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Does that have Nev Campbell? No, not Liz Tyler.
Liv Tyler.
Liv Tyler.
Yep,
That's
Tyler.
right.
Yeah.
Liev Schreiber Tyler.
Yes.
Something. As the token woman. That's right. So, let's talk some Black Panther. This award season is starting to crank up. The 44th Saturn Awards gave out their prizes. This is the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films giving out their top honors, and Black Panther took the most. And if this is an indication of any influence on the other Academy, which the article takes care to note that it never is.
Probably isn't.
Right.
Then the Black Panther is going to clean up next February. But it took home 5 Saturn Awards, including Best Comic to Film Motion Picture and Best Director for Ryan Coogler. Some other winners were Star Wars The Last Jedi. Mark Hamill got Best Actor, and Rian Johnson got Best Screenplay. And then Blade Runner 2049, Best Science Fiction Film. Shape of Water, Best Fantasy Film. Get Out, Horror Film.
Fishman, A+ Fishman.
That's right.
Yeah.
As a human hybrid enthusiast.
Yeah, that's right. One of the reasons for this awards, or at least in part, was how genre films were typically shut out of the Oscars.
Right.
And so that you had no chance at all of getting recognized, or only being recognized for things like special effects and costumes, if even that.
Yeah.
And then the irony is that that's no longer true. I mean, the year that Lord of the Rings brought home like 11 Academy Awards, you could no longer say that genre films just weren't good enough.
That's right.
Or Shape of Water. I mean, people love fish butts.
Yeah, that's right. That was an amazing movie. Talking about amazing, well, or less so, Torchwood. It was a Doctor Who spin-off series on the BBC. My wife and I watched, I don't know if it's like 3 seasons or something. It wasn't a lot. It had Barrowman, who's a very handsome man. John Barrowman is extraordinarily handsome, as Captain Jack Harkness. So I was kind of surprised to say that they're bringing back an official Series 6. And I'm like, what, really? It's been years now. And then reading the article a little more closely, it's a, quote, a new set of audio plays. So I'm like, it looks like you can buy it online, or it's going to be released online as audio, which is kind of cool. I listen to podcasts all the time, including fiction podcasts.
Yeah.
But I wasn't even aware that they were doing this, and they're using some of the original cast to voice it. So
awesome.
I would buy that.
Yeah.
Sounds fun.
You know what else England is sending us is the Great British Baking Show. They are sending us a new...
My wife loves that show.
Yeah, my wife and kids do too. I don't mind it. I'll sit down. If it's on, I will sit and not be driven from the room by it, which is...
Well, not only that, but I'll sit down thinking that there's obviously nothing to interest me, i.e., there's no vampires, robots, dinosaurs, aliens.
But there are baked goods, and those always interest me.
But not just that, but the drama. How they can extract that much drama out of what's basically very pleasant people working together on a baking project.
That's right.
And you're just, riveted. I have to see what happens next.
That's right. Oh, I hope they don't cry. Now, I say that this is a new season, but of course this season, because, it takes things this long to cross the ocean in the digital age, this series aired in the UK back in 2012, but it features the original hosts. Recently they have Mel and Sue split off from the show along with Mary Berry, one of the judges. And I just don't know how it would be the same show without them. I mean, that's part of the thing one of the stories that I've heard is that when a contestant is really, really upset, Mel and Sue will gather around them, and then they will swear like sailors, so the footage can't be used.
Really?
Yeah.
Of the contestant. Yeah, so that the contestant, you can't use that of the contestant breaking down in tears. And so they do a little of it, but it's a sweet show in all ways, and everything always looks awesome, and it's really cool. And like you said, Steve, it is nail biting to see how these incredible creations are they going to turn out. Oh my God!
Do you remember Bingate?
No. Yeah, where the dude threw his stuff, just dumped it in the trash.
Bin.
Yeah, he binned it.
Yeah. Again, I'm saying the most polite way of kind of showing anger, and it was amazing.
That's right.
Well, this is not a British thing per se, more of a lunar Australian situation. But for anybody who plays Overwatch, which is Blizzard's Team Fortress 2 style first-person shooter cooperative game, again, it's sort of that glorified capture the flag cooperative stuff. They just added, it's a big deal when they add a new hero because they don't add them often, but they periodically drip them in. And hero number 28 of Overwatch is called Wrecking Ball, and it's a mech character, and it's like this quadruped ball, spheroid shaped mech, and it can convert into like a ball, and has a grappling hook, so you can pivot, you can shoot your hook up and then grab onto parts of the terrain and swing around like a wrecking ball, which is very fun. But really cool gameplay. But the kicker is that it's piloted by a tiny hamster named Hammond, so it's a hamster ball.
That's awesome.
It's a mech hamster ball. It's a tank class, so it's meant to absorb a lot of damage and distract, kind of, and draw fire. So it's a genetically engineered hamster. And the cutest thing was the dev announcement from earlier today. He was like, it's going to be this hamster. I think it was Jet, but it was like, it's this hamster. It's a wrecking ball, but he doesn't talk because that would be ridiculous. But he can communicate through the mech. And it was just like, I'm very excited. I don't play a ton of Overwatch, but this makes me want to play more Overwatch than I do if I can be a wrecking ball hamster. And the cute thing is, in the first person view, you see the tiny hamster paws at the bottom of your screen, kind of controlling joysticks and levers in the mech. It's very good. There's some cute little animations and gameplay vids already out, and you don't really see the hamster much in gameplay, but you know that it's there, and you see the little tiny hamster paws. It's so good. So I'm very excited about that.
That's awesome.
Excellent. Well, that's going to do it for our news this week, but there's lots of movies we haven't seen yet. Let's trash some trailers.
This will make for one epic trailer.
Okay, so I have a morbid curiosity and fascination with urban legends and conspiracy theories and creepypastas, which, if you're not familiar with creepypastas, they're sort of manufactured urban legends that are nascent to internet communities like Reddit, Something Awful forums, and 4chan, like those kinds of things, for good or for worse. And they're making one of the most famous creepypastas of the internet is the Slenderman, which is from a 2009 Something Awful. It's from 2009. Like, that's when this creature was created. And from the Something Awful forums. And it was basically like Photoshop pictures of black and white photos of children at playgrounds. And there's this figure in the background that's like a very tall, thin, white-headed person with like kind of Jack Skellington style features, like long arms and long legs. And that's the Slender Man.
And no face, right?
Yeah, no face. And that's the Slender Man, but anyway, so they're making...
Well, I have to thank you for clarifying it, because I thought for the longest time that he was like, a Jewish guy named Slenderman.
Oh my God.
Avi Slenderman, he's a...
Yeah.
I don't know what's so horrifying about him. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, it just seems nice. So, Slenderman's interesting too, because it's very much manufactured, but it's certainly taken on a life of its own in the culture. Even for me, as someone in my 30s, and I know where Slenderman is from, it's like there's still superstition around it, and it's interesting. And actually, there was a case in Wisconsin of a girl, just in the last couple years, of a girl who supposedly stabbed another girl in order to please Slenderman. Obviously, there's some other stuff going on there, but I mean, people are doing crimes in the name of Slenderman. But the general... That
was bizarre.
It was
real and tragic, but so bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's some other, like, instability issues with that, but... Because you don't know what people are going to fixate on.
Yeah, as always. I mean, no matter what the phenomenon is, there's always somebody who fixates on it and uses it to do something weird.
Right.
But what gets me is that it's a completely invented mythology. It didn't come up out of some local community. It didn't come from a culture or a per se. Instead, it was an invention of this internet culture.
Yeah,
and that's a valid thing for it to come from. But I mean, that's within the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
And now
to say like the myths of time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And
who could possibly know?
It's so weird too, because like, if you follow any kind of creepypasta, like kind of the Up All Night style, like, but No Sleep podcast style, like urban legendy kind of thing, but it's specifically created, and you can see the origin point for it. But anyway, so that all aside, I would love to talk about Slenderman in lots of detail another time. But the trailer for this movie coming out in August looks abysmal. Like, it's vague. They don't even show the creature, but like maybe once really fast. Like, this looks worse than the Ouija movies, looks worse than Bye Bye Man, which I have a lot of opinions about as well.
But it also looks super similar. Like they say something in the trailer that looks like it came out of the Bye Bye Man about he gets in your head, and then they show a scene where someone self-harms.
Yes, yeah, it's like they're going crazy
a lot like the Bye Bye
from
Man,
it.
which we just saw. I mean,
yeah, and it's just, and that's not really a Slenderman thing, but it doesn't matter because the lore is made up, so you can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
with it. That's not
that's
the thing.
right.
It just looks so incredibly...
They also showed like a video montage of horrifying images,
like the
that
Ring.
was very reminiscent of The Ring.
Yeah, it just looks like a generic like hodgepodge of horror tropes.
Yes,
like shock horror tropes, and not. So, and psychological thriller horror tropes, and just not, I feel like the source material is actually very compelling on its own without just bringing in all of this like random other horror trope stuff. So I'm disappointed in this trailer.
Yeah, the stuff in this trailer is not the real Slenderman.
Yeah, I want to
Everybody
trash
knows
it.
Everybody knows what the real one is. Now let us be clear, this is not the Bye Bye Man. It is also not The Tall Man, and it is similarly not The Tall Guy, which is a movie from 1989 with Jeff Goldblum and Emma Thompson, which has the world's best sex scene in it. So if that's what you're thinking,
which is between Jeff Goldblum and Emma Thompson,
it is, and they destroy an apartment while making love.
That sounds like hilarious. Yeah, it sounds like a much more interesting movie than 2018 Slenderman.
Yeah, so instead of that, go back to I'm counting, is this 30 years? A 30-year old movie, and watch that instead for the laughs.
Yeah. The Tall Man came out in 2012. It was a Canadian film, and the marketing, the posters and stuff, made it look exactly like Slenderman. They were definitely banking on the notoriety of Slenderman, for putting butts in seats.
Sure.
And so I watched it thinking like, well, okay, maybe they couldn't for whatever intellectual property reason use the word Slenderman. I mean, that's what I thought. I didn't know. And they definitely begin that way. Like, children are missing from this little town, and is there this strange figure that everyone's talking about called the Tall Man that snatches them up? And then the film takes this like right angle, and it, in my opinion, is much better for it. When you realize that there's nothing supernatural going on, and in some ways that's even
darker.
It's darker, yeah. Yep. So, but they were definitely banking on the Legend of the Slender Man. So,
well, there you go. There you go.
There's a movie I can't even. I didn't put it up here. I didn't want you guys to watch the trailer. I cannot get through the trailer. I've tried 3 times because it keeps on showing up on like the YouTube, movies coming out this year list. It's called The Nun.
Oh, we saw a trailer for that today. It looks awful.
Yeah, I could not get myself to finish sitting through the 2.5 minute trailer. Yeah, it's some kind of, monster nun or something that inhabits a girls' school.
Yeah.
But just like this, it was a hodgepodge of other films.
Yep.
Randomly tropes thrown together and shaken about. Whatever, I just couldn't get through it. I'm like, if you can't hold my interest for 2.5 minutes, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, that's right. Well, what makes it scary is the backwards N at the end of The Nun.
Oh, that's how you know it's hardcore.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. It worked for 9 Inch Nails.
That's right. So, as a matter of fact, I happened to see that trailer for The Nun, which is appropriate because it was leading up to a screwball comedy. I went to see the movie Tag today, so this isn't really an overdue.
Come on. This is not overdue. It just came out.
Yeah, I know, but it's the most recent movie I have seen, and I couldn't remember any of the ones that I've seen in the past.
All right, so if it's not an overdue review, it's a new review or a...
It's a due review. We'll call it
a due review. Yeah.
It's due.
We're still...
Do the
okay.
due.
All right. I'll accept it.
This is your review? Well, you're late.
Tag is a screwball comedy with Ed Helms and John Hamm, Jeremy Renner, Hannibal Buress, Isla Fisher. It's got a kind of an odd premise that it's about these grown men who have been playing the same game of tag their whole lives. So even as adults, they play this game of tag that it turns out to be based on a true story that was in the Wall Street Journal about this group of 9 dudes who for 23 years would play tag. And the way they do it is they set aside 1 month every year. And during that month, whoever is the last one to be tagged at the end of the month has to live in shame for the whole year and then starts out as it next year.
That's sweet, actually.
And they go to great lengths to tag each other, dressing up in disguise, flying to their friends' hometowns, just show. One guy tagged another guy at his dad's funeral.
That's a lot, but okay.
He walked up to him while he was standing at the casket and tapped him on and says, "Your dad would have liked you to know that you're it." So it's a pretty wacky idea for a comedy, and it's the way I see it. It's a premise that could only work with a bunch of middle-aged white guys, especially middle-aged white guys with some dough, some disposable income. Now they changed it a little for the movie in that Hannibal Buress is one of the guys, so you have a little diversity. There's not a ton of diversity in this movie. It's mostly middle-aged white guys being douchebags to each other.
Which is kind of like the epitome of YouTube. With the frat mentality, like, hey, watch this. It's like, that's entertaining to its, it's definitely a genre.
Yep. Now, because it's a comedy, they go over the top. Jeremy Renner is essentially Hawkeye when they're trying to tag him. He's the guy in the group who has, in 30 years, has never been tagged. And they're going to get him this year. They're going to work together. All the other guys are going to work together, and they're going to tag him this year. But it's like that scene in Sherlock Holmes, where Robert Downey Jr. is saying, now here's what he's going to do next, so I need to move, and he's moving in slow motion, and he's evading their
analyzing everything, every angle.
Yeah, exactly, and then executing some, parkour move to get away from him. It's really funny, and then they just keep upping the ante and doing more and more stuff. Yeah. Toward the end, because this could just be a throwaway movie, but towards the end, it turns out to be surprisingly heartfelt and fun and smart. I was really, really surprised at how much the ending was effective. It was actually emotional. It's like, wow. So, if you've got nothing else to see, if there's no, you need to burn something on your movie pass, I totally recommend Tag. I think it's a really good movie. Or you can wait till it comes out on DVD or Blu-ray because it's going to be just as good. Sure. It's a fun movie. Now,
it's gotten very good reviews. So other people agree.
The trailer looked very charming, actually.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, that looks nice. It just looks like a nice movie.
And
lighthearted.
And it kind of is. It kind of is.
The news story is that Jeremy Renner broke both of his arms while filming it.
Oh, my gosh.
On day 3 of the shoot. And I think that picked out which stunt it was, because, oh my God. I mean, if he was doing his own stunt work there, I am not a bit surprised. They get because like I said, he's doing a very physical role. His character owns a gym and is, into self-defense and stuff like that, which is why he's just that good. But it's really great. So tag, go see it. I know it's a due movie, not an overdue movie, but it was totally worth it.
Yeah, excellent. It's fun to hear a movie that you can actually recommend.
Yeah, instead of saying, boy, did this suck. No, it was
exactly.
It was good. Now, like I said, a lot of middle-aged white dudes as the focus, but if you can put that aside, go for it. It's really good. Madison, how about you? You got any good budget bin games for us?
Big fun.
Small price.
Yeah, so this isn't a do review, but a do review. I've been saving that. It's called Super Duper Party Pooper. It is a rhythm game / shooter with poop. It is.
Okay.
Go on. There's a lot going on here. It's by Cabro Studio. It's $1. It's for PC and Mac. We've reviewed other games by this studio, totaled from a few weeks ago, and Netflix or Flicks and Chill from last year is the same dudes. But I'm going to read this description to you. Have you ever wanted to poop on party goers, but were too socially awkward to just go for it? Well, Super Duper Party Pooper is about to change all that.
No,
it's a rhythm,
no,
it's a music,
and no.
It's a music rhythm game, and this is actually cool. So you can it has default music, and you have to hit keys in time with the music to eat food and put in your belly.
You mean like Guitar Hero?
Yes, yeah.
That style,
yes.
Okay.
So little trays of food pop up on the screen, and they're foods that make you poop, or pickles and sausages and stuff like that. But it's and you eat the food in time to the music, and then it transitions from rhythm game mode into shooter mode, and it's like a physics shooter where your character that you've been eating the food with flips over, puts their butt out, and there's a peach butt situation, and there's a little target thing that comes off of your butt, and you shoot poop that you've made, and you poop on little figures that are dancing because they're at a party, and you poop on them, and that is the premise of the game. It's 2-part. There's the rhythm game, and then there's the poop shooter. And the cool thing is that you can upload
poop shoot. I get it.
Yes,
it's a poop shoot.
Yes, and you can upload your own music track, so you can poop to your favorite songs.
Poop. There it is.
Yes, and
poop,
you can
there it is.
Yeah, exactly. And you put in it'll do the BPM, and then you play the rhythm game to your favorite track, and then you poop on people that are dancing to the music that you like. And I did a short video of this on YouTube, and there'll be a link in the show notes if you want to see what this looks like in action. It was harder than I thought it was. Is it worth $1? No. Do I regret the 10 minutes that I spent playing it? No, I don't regret it. But if you want to poop...
What's that little icon of a stomach on the edge of the screen?
Oh, that's when you... so the little stomach is in the rhythm game section when you eat food off of the little plates. It goes into your stomach.
It's got to be the ammo counter.
Yes, it is your ammo. And that's how you know how many more poops you have.
Well, they should have drawn that as a spiral intestine over there.
That's right.
Yeah, not a stomach, but these are... You got to suspend your disbelief, Steve.
Steve, you and I played the live action version of that game by eating Drury Inn food.
Is this the Fear the Con thing?
Oh yes.
Did you shoot people with your poop? Because I think we need to talk about that. Maybe
only in our imaginations, back in the privacy of our own rooms. At least that was it for me. I can't speak for Steve.
We're going to a weird place, but this is Super Duper Party Pooper, a rhythm game and poop shooter.
It really sounds like they just wanted to figure out how to turn Party Pooper, the phrase, into a video game.
Into a literal game, yes. I feel exactly that same way. But it was, I actually bought it on sale during the Steam Summer Sale, so it was only 50 cents.
Good.
So
good.
10 minutes for 50 cents, that's better than like an arcade. So
It's true. It's true. And you probably get fewer germs off of it, too.
Yeah.
So, Steve, what weird anime have you been watching?
スティーブはとってもくだらない人でアニメを見るんです。What weird anime is Steve watching this week?
Boy, howdy. So, the problem is I've caught up on all of them. And so now I have this huge list of ongoing series, and I have to check periodically to catch the latest episode and then wait for, one episode a week, or the series is on hiatus while everybody waits for the next season. And I have stopped right now adding new series because the list keeps growing. I used to just find stuff that was already out. Like, there's 13 episodes, that's the season, just watch it. But that's not these ones. These are all being, simulcast. So just a highlight of the list, Steins Gate Zero, is the second, like, an offshoot of Steins Gate. Absolutely fantastic. It's kind of like this crazy intellectual puzzle dealing with, time travel, time loops, but it also has very affecting characters in this emotional mesh. That's fantastic. High School DxD is completely stupid, and I love it. It's a boy obsessed with boobs and gets his power armor, and he works for a demon in his high school, and it makes no sense, and his power derives from his love of boobs. So,
sounds very
I did learn how to say
anime.
boobs in Japanese, though, because they say it all the time.
What is it?
Like uppa.
Uppa.
Okay.
Uppa.
Food Wars,
So
Shokugeki no Soma. Yeah, I love it. I finally caught up. So that's 3 whole seasons. And I think season 3 is done. I don't know that, but there's 24 episodes. So my guess is that we're waiting for season 4 to start.
I think so.
Absolutely fantastic show. Again, the ridiculous premise is that it's a fight anime where whole episodes are dedicated to fights, except that the fights are cooking challenges with an ingredient agreed upon by the judges. And it's all different styles of cooking. One character near the end of season 3 won the contest by... No, he didn't win, but it was his challenge was almost won by chicken fried bear.
Oh, yeah,
So
you
it
have
was-
to work with the
and
umami of the bear.
Yes, yeah, it enhanced the umami of bear meat, which is very gamey. And they're actually, because this is a Japanese audience, they're saying, well, the fried chicken history of American South and the whole thing. And I'm like, are they really going to say chicken fried bear? And yes, that's exactly how they translated it.
You know why? Because breaded fried meat is delicious in any culture.
Yep. I've had chicken fried steaks and a
Yeah.
few other things, other than chicken, and it is very good.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, but Food Wars is excellent. I mean, it's
I highly recommend, strong recommend.
it's an easy recommend, and it's weird and very anime weird in
Yes.
that way, but it's still pretty accessible.
Especially since the topic is cooking. That makes it charming.
Yeah, it's very approachable. Yeah, A+.
There's a cool kind of fantasy magic battle thing called Black Clover. The only problem with that show is that you got to turn your volume down because the main character does nothing but scream the entire time.
Oh, one of those.
It's like 24 minutes of screaming, and just him. The other characters are relatively speak normal, and he doesn't. He has off and 11 are the only 2 volumes.
So there's some sound design issue here, sound direction with the.
And I guess they're trying to show enthusiasm or something. They're trying to show these very enthusiastic, but they just holler. And then the last one I'll mention today, which again, I'm waiting for the next episode on all these, is called Darling in the Franxx. And it's kind of kids pilot mechs to fight monsters, but the story is much more complex as the series goes on, is deeply tragic when you realize that the kids were genetically engineered and what the adults want of them. And so the kids think for a long time that if they could just do well enough and survive all these battles, they'll get to, become adults and move into the city. And they find out that that's absolutely not allowed, and there is no intention for them to ever survive. Oh. And then if you think that's tragic, then the next episode is even worse. And then just when things are getting better, it's taken away from them, and things get even worse. No. And so it's like gut punch after gut punch, pure drama and tragedy, but it's overlaid over this very anime structure of, kids in mechs, battling monsters. So there's a lot more to it than that, and that's what makes it fascinating.
Awesome. Well, that's it for our show this week. We have covered a lot of ground to kind of catch up, but now we are going to head over to There's a Problem with Your Face. We're going to hear about Madison's speech on prophylactics before we go into a Fear the Con post-mortem, where you can hear some of what we did. Including
the problem with my face, which apparently I'm a problem person. So.
Yeah, which is a pretty big problem. But if you want to join us over there, Steve will tell you how.
AITRpodcast.com, the links to the social media, all of the media that we mentioned, including the video games that Madison reviews, plus a link over to Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get twice the content.
Excellent. So, until next week, I'm Jeb Brack.
I'm Madison Metricula Roberts.
And this was Tech Guy Steve.
And we'll talk to you next time.